Now, at the outset, I extend a warm welcome to the opening session of this IFRS course. And before we take a deep dive into the ocean of motion that is IFRS, I would firstly like to understand from each one of you your aspiration as to what brings you here and why you are so keen to study IFRS. Would anybody would like to volunteer to share as to what brings you here? And a slight introduction of yourself as to who you are, what do you do, and especially your location as to what's your location, maybe Mumbai, Chennai, or whatsoever, or maybe Qatar or London. I mean, after you have introduced, I'll introduce myself. But if you Google more, if you wish to know more of me, you can just Google and come to know. Like, I don't proclaim much. I've been into IFRS since 2006. I was fortunate enough to study IFRS in London and implement while UK picked up IFRS implementation then. Ever since then, I got addicted to IFRS and I have been teaching only this particular subject, although I can teach other subjects as well. Of course, you'll come to know when we start the lectures, and maybe if you have attended a couple of my lectures or maybe have seen my recordings. This is my 6th batch for your information. I do not work for NDRWIN as such. I'm a freelancer and I just teach IFRS out of my passion. I have my own venture. I teach IFRS to foreign students and I have mostly lived abroad. I've just come back to India last year on account of domestic reasons, and then I have plunged into teaching IFRS full-fledged. Yes. Anybody would like to volunteer to share as to or introduce yourself? Yeah,
sure. So my name is Kuldeep Agarwal. I'm currently in Jaipur. Okay, that's my base location. And I'm currently working with Spalding Ridge. That's kind of an IT firm which implement cloud services, okay, which provide the cloud services to the customers. And prior to that, I have total experience of 15 years with different companies like Citibank, Deutsche Bank. So I've worked with multinational companies and currently working as a manager, billing manager, like you can say a finance manager. Okay. What motivates me to work to get the course of IFRS? It's like the last course which I completed, or the qualification which I completed, it was an MBA that was done in 2012. So after that much of time, I didn't do study. Like I was working on a profile basis only. So, the accounting methods and all these things were like, I was keep struggling with those. So I just thought that let's start with IFRS and I'll be going for more different courses after that also. So that motivates me. IFRS is something that reporting is standard. So I'm working in kind of a critical reportings, which is going on, like for example, regulatory reporting and different type of reportings in this. So that's motivates me to go for it. It will relate to my particular profile. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do you contemplate to obtain any certification hereafter, like attempt some examination and get some certification to your credit, to add to your credential? The reason I'm asking is because most of the students nowadays they opt for diploma or certification courses. So that this helps me assimilate as to how I can gauge my lectures accordingly, and then what should be the point of reference to begin with. So do you have any such intentions to undertake any certifications? Are you opting for diploma, IFRS course, or an examination going ahead? Maybe not very soon, but maybe in
next year. Next year I was planning to go for an examination for this IFRS, as well as not for IFRS. I'm not going to stop for IFRS now. I'll go further to CMA also. So that's my end plan as of now. So that is my plan. But yes, IFRS is something kind of a start to go for it, and then as soon as I'll get the certification or the knowledge or everything with IFRS, I'll go further for CMA also.
So, given me to understand what I've assimilated your profession having done your MBA, are you a chartered accountant or you are an MBA in finance?
MBA
non-chartered.
No, only.
So you opt for CMA in terms US CMA or Indian CMA?
US CMA. No, I didn't opt for it. I'm saying that as soon as I complete IFRS with the certification, I'll go for it.
When you say certification, there are two types of certification. One is a certificate course in IFRS and there is a diploma course in IFRS. And for your information, if you're not aware, most probably people not aware there is a degree available, but as of now, it's only available in Russia, in Russian language.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thanks for sharing. Appreciated. Anybody else? I'm sorry, I'm very poor at like name pronunciation. To excuse me. I mean, I don't do it intentionally, but then it happens. Yeah, Adarsh, would you mind?
Hi sir, I'm from Bangalore. I'm basically a Bachelor of Commerce. I'm working with a manufacturing company last from 8 years. Come to know that I checked with my boss. I wanted to improve my career. What I have to do? He suggested me do IFRS course. You'll get something. You will learn something. That's why I joined, sir.
Are you looking for any certification to be obtained, or how it's so like? Do you intend to appear for any examination going ahead?
Yes, sir. Next year I wanted to. Next year.
Okay, good. Sandeep, am I audible to you, Mr. Sandeep? I believe if
His video got paused, I think, because of
frozen. Yeah, his screen happens to have frozen, so maybe he'll come back anyway. Survi Mathur, would you mind to share something about yourself? I think you are muted. You need to.
Good morning, sir. I'm a qualified company secretary, and I have total experience of 4 years of working experience within MNC. And there I was handling the compliance function. Apart from that, I was also handling the finance functions. I was working there as senior finance executive. So what I noticed about myself for the compliance section, I was much well aware about it, as my course structure were designed in that way that it was totally the corporate compliance study in company secretary. If it comes to finance section, it was not much in detail, but when I came to working in the company, so I judged myself and I was of the view that I should go beyond what I am working. I have to gain knowledge much about the finance function to think more logically, because we also have to go through the balance sheets, we have to sign the balance sheet. So apart from the qualitative structure of the company, we have to not only rely on the CAs to go through the balance sheet, but also we, as a company secretary of the company, we also have to think thoroughly why the entries have done like this, why some things are considered as expenses or income. So this was the main reason. So I opted for going for the IFRS course.
I mean, you would be coming, if you say you are a company secretary, you would be of course coming from the commerce background.
Yes, right.
Yes, Sandeep. Am I audible to you, Mr. Sandeep? This is the second time. I think you are unfrozen now, so you can speak. Just unmute yourself and introduce.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. I am Sandeep from Mumbai. I am working with Jkjiwani Limited since last 15 years. I am Bachelor of Commerce, and I come to know to gain a knowledge for IFRS studies.
What prompted you to study IFRS? Like, firstly, I mean, I would like to understand the zeal of your interest. Like, what makes you? I mean, most probably students have a fall in the sense their seniors have asked, or maybe like somebody recommended, or maybe their friend, they come from the friend circle whom they undertake. Because I have got a batch wherein I have got like 8 to 9 students from a group. They sort like if suppose one person is doing, so let's go into a group and study. So what prompts you to study IFRS? Like there has to be an end goal to it. It's not like it happened. There has to be a purpose behind it, so that the reason, if you have a solid purpose, you can consolidate faster and reap the benefits.
Yeah.
Yes, Sandeep.
We come to know from our boss, Mr. Siddharth Barwani.
Yes. I'm not interested who your boss is, but yes, I would like to understand as to what brings you
here. Yes, we wanted to learn about
this spectrum. I think you're frozen again. That's not a problem. Anybody else? Keyur, I believe. I mean, if I'm spelling that correct, pronouncing that correct.
Yeah, sir. So this is Keyur here. I'm from Mumbai, and I am heading finance team in a listed company in Mumbai. We are actually planning to expand abroad, and that's why we wanted to go for. I wanted to go for IFRS to understand how it works and how the accounting standards are working there.
So thanks to the expansion which is happening because of that,
Yeah.
that brings you here.
Yeah.
Upadhyay, ABC.
Hi, sir. This is
Yeah.
Uday Upadhyay.
Yes.
I have around 12-year experience in finance and account, and I have done MBA in 2009. So currently I'm working with Prowana India Private Limited. This is a US-based company which is dealing in IT software. So basically I am taking care of financial planning and reporting. So in this KRA, I need some reporting purpose to US. So that's why I'm looking for IFRS and I am doing this course.
Very good.
Yes.
Good
Thanks.
about it. Like anything which you would like to know more of me? Any questions before I begin with the ocean of motion that is our IFRS?
Yeah, sir. First of all, your complete name, like it's showing Jkjiwani. So just wanted to, if I want to call you out, so your first name or something.
My first name is Jack. K
Jack.
stands for King. Jack for Jack the King. You Google about me, you'll come to know about myself a lot.
Okay. One more thing, sir. I think the class was scheduled for 8 to 10. Am I right to say this?
No,
Earlier?
because this is from 9 to 1. This is a fresh batch beginning starting today. I'm handling 3 batches in parallel, weekdays batches and 2 weekend batches. One batch is from 9 to 1 and another batch is from 7:30 in the evening to 11:30. It goes beyond midnight most of the time. Well, it all depends on you. I don't look into timings. So you have to just remind me to stop whenever you need a break and then specially to remind to close because I may go on. I'm fanatic whereas IFRS is concerned. To give you more brief about the approach I undertake is like I don't give any notes. I don't teach anything by PPT. I believe in structured study, not scattered study. I have a reason where I don't teach by PPT and I've never taught in my 15 or 16 years of teaching career of IFRS is that I want my students to study IFRS for life, not just for academics or for any exam oriented. And I have my own, as I mentioned earlier, I teach to mostly foreign students sitting here because I studied there. I have a group and I'm associated to institution. ND Arvind is one. I teach mostly to UK and Malaysian students. And the tenure of my batch is nearly 6 months minimum. It comprises of 140 hours, 100 hours the syllabus and 40 hours for the practicals. And I cover as many as 1,500 problems. And the textbook is like 300, 3 textbooks of 1,800, comprising 1,800 in total. One of the textbooks I can show it. This is one volume, one of the textbooks. Like this, we have 3 textbooks. Anyway, that's not just to brief you as to. The point to share this is to bring home a notion is that whatever you would be studying is just a tip of an iceberg. The reason I don't teach by PPT is because I can finish the course in 3 hours, 3 days, in 3 weeks. But I take this approach in an interactive way in the sense because this is not a logical subject where you learn things by formula and you get it. Now, this is something what I would say, and you would have also learned or have a know-how about it, is that IFR is based on principles. It's a principle-based approach as opposed to rule-based. You understand the meaning of the two? Can anybody differentiate or share as to what do you mean by rule-based and what do you mean by judgment-based? Have you ever heard about this? Of course, I believe Survi would be in a position to answer rule-based.
Yes, sir. Rule-based is something that there are prescribed rules to consider anything or to assume anything or we undertake any accounting principle, there are a prescribed set of rules by a prescribed body. On the counter, if we come to judgment based, that is, there we can go for the assumptions. We can have a particular scenario where we can have different judgment, different opinion, and we choose the best judgment for that, considering to consider a particular thing as to what to do, what not to do. In rule based, we have to prescribe what is there, what is written, what is prescribed in the rules. We cannot go beyond that.
So in short, whatever you narrated, I could only gather one thing. Rule-based is something which is a prescription sort of a thing doctors prepare. This is the pill you have to take. And judgment is like, you carry an option as to what approach you can undertake. Am I correct? Anybody else would like to share?
Yeah, like by understanding this, as you just advised and should be also advised, like rules are like something that we need to follow it, and like whatever been decided, we have to follow that. However, in judgment based, like we probably can think logically that what particular rules or what particular principles need to be set it into under in our financial statements and all these things. That's what I thought I'm understanding with this.
You are right. Appreciate your sharing. Anybody else? Which of the two is more riskier? Which of the two is a riskier approach? Others. You are muted. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Assumption based.
No. Which of the two? One is the rule based and one is judgment based.
Judgment based.
I mean, you discovered another one assumption. So I'm happy about it, but there is a correlated matrix under the two. Both are assumptions. So which of the two is riskier? Is it judgment or is it a rule-based approach?
Judgment.
Why?
Because in that case, there is no proper rules which prescribe any acts.
What do you understand when I say riskier? What do you understand out of that?
Riskier means it comes to an end at judgment basis. It should be a conclusion.
When I say riskier, so what is my interpretation of that risk associated? I mean, in what sense I am using this word riskier? Riskier to whom? It's common sense. The first risk get attached to the person who is signing off the balance sheet or the financial statement. You understand the point?
Yes.
Now, it is my apprehension in future going ahead. Not many people would be inclined to study or get into finance because of this gray area of judgments. Now, if you have worked in Canada or US or UK in the western part of the world, as I have, the next day you are sued or you are fired. Trust me, I'm not joking, not bluffing. I'm giving you and sharing my first-hand experience. My senior was just fired out of one particular entry which he, in terms of revenue, he projected and got chained up, reactive. See, anything, for you it's a transaction, for you it's an entry. For CFO, for others, it's a reflection in terms of how the transaction reflects into stocks or EPS. Are you getting my point, what I'm trying to bring down the narration? The narrative is that what is being focused is not the bottom line, it's a reflection as to how the bottom line gets reflected onto the stocks, especially if you say you're listed companies, as Upadhyay says. So if you are in a strategic role, you are working in a line of fire. Not many people would be inclined, or maybe I would say rather put it, rephrase it, like people will be reluctant to go into or step into this area, which is a gray area, which calls for judgment. So this subject is not straightforward where I can give you a formula or anything, notes on this that can help you. The very purpose and objective behind having an interactive class is to that you firstly develop the conviction in your communication. Now I'll give you an example of what is conviction. It's not about confidence, it's about conviction as to under what line of defense are you proposing this particular accounting treatment? Now, whenever you are studying IFRS or working under the regime of IFRS, you will be asked 10,000 questions. What on earth made you to have this approach towards an accounting treatment? ऐसा क्यों किया? ये entry क्यों मारा? You could have taken that approach. So now what happens is like we undermine the attributes of communication in terms of conviction. The moment you are triggered or there is a cohesion or like, the element of confusion, you divert yourself onto the other side and you become defendant. In the sense, you become non-confident. You get my point? So have the conviction in whatever you study. I mean, calls for your study into depth. This textbook is all about length and breadth, to be very honest. You will get through the exam, you will pass the exam, you will sweet corner. But once you have the certificate and go onto the table, you will see the real mirror. Now, I'm happy that, I'm not that very happy in the sense like, there are no CA students. In one of the batches out of 38, there are 18 CA students. And I make them show the mirror, right? In my first 15 minutes of my lecture, and the same thing I'm going to do with you is that you have studied commerce all throughout, correct? When it's you say MBA finance, somebody says you will see. What do you understand by an asset? How would you define an asset? Simple, come on, don't tell me that you don't know what is an asset is because you have been studying all throughout 10, 15 years. Am I right or wrong? What is an asset? I'm starting from the very core, the very basics of finance, of which reporting is a spectrum. Firstly, would you gather to a point that, okay, you need to understand the anatomy of the body and then you will be able to diagnose it? Yes or no? There's a body of knowledge related. This is like a framework sort of a thing. So unless you have a map, you cannot think about a destination. Isn't it or not? I hope I'm not speaking so loud that you cannot hear. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I use poetic language. Most of the people, they withdraw when I reach in my personal coaching. When I reach to IFRS 9, people withdraw. And I have all the CFOs sitting in my seminar. They say, where you bring all the argument from? It's not a matter of calculation. It's a matter of perspective. See, when you say judgment, it's a perspective. Yes or no? It's your perception based on the interpretation of the knowledge or the information you have at hand or given to understand. Now, what your subordinate does in terms of entry is your call because you will be questioned as to how and why this particular transaction was opted for in terms of its accounting treatment. Are you getting my point? An example. Why was assets not valued at fair value and was retained to a cost model? This is some generic sort of discussion which I'm trying to put forward to you to give you a perspective to warm up this particular session. Because once we go deep, you will get interested and that's how. Otherwise, if I just go by PPT, you will feel happy and you will applaud me, okay, sir, what teaching is. I don't give you a good feel factor. I make you realize where you stand. It's not I'm proclaiming, please not misunderstand. I'm not undermining your potential, neither trying to scare you or, portray a cast on you, okay, but you don't know anything, please. My intentions are very clear. I want you to realize that you are studying this for your life. And you will remember me all throughout your life, for sure. That is a bet on this. Especially when you open the examination paper, 20 minutes, you will see my face only. This is my experience. I'm just sharing you, so don't get worried about it. But what do you understand by an asset? Come on, tell me. You have studied it. I'm asking you 11 standard question. Yeah, Goldie. Whatever comes to mind. See, you don't have to be
So asset,
frightened. Yeah.
I'm not too sure on that definition particularly, but yeah, asset kind of a stuff which develops, which helps to develop the business. It could be anything. It could be your stock. It could be your furniture. It could be a cash which you are particular having in the hand, whatever you're releasing. So that also. However, capital is not an asset, so which actually start with this. So probably that against my definition, which I'm trying to. But yeah, asset is something that helps to develop your business.
Good. I'm happy about it. When you are asked in interview, don't bring twin brothers together. When you talk about yourself, talk about yourself only. You brought something else also. You brought capital. I didn't have anything on capital. This is just because I want you to be prepared for your future. You understand? My notion is not teaching for your exam. I want you to remember for life. And that's how I carry a backend group in my private ventures. Like I support them whenever you have any questions. And of just to, and before I forget, my teaching is when I teach God and I know. After that only God knows. What poem gets composed. I don't know. Maybe you can find if you listen to my recording. Maybe some of the lectures are extremely effective. It depends as to what insights comes out of the discussion and how collaborative or cooperative the crowd is. I classify students into two folds. One is eagle and chickens. Those who sit, those who don't talk, those who don't interact, don't learn. They are chickens. They can't reach heights. So it all depends upon you. I'm not trying that you prove that you are illegal, but thing is, it all depends. I won't be asking you. And I'll be asking maximum question to the people, those who are not visible. And if they are unable to, come on my first call, I mark them absent. I don't care. Even if one student, yesterday I had one student. There were three students. They could not come on camera. I locked them off. So I don't want to be harsh on my side. Please not misunderstand. But I need interaction because this is how, this is the base with which you will be able to learn the acumen of interpretation, because this is all about interpretation. Thanks for sharing. Kuldeep, anybody else who would like to share as to what notion they carry about the asset? Kuldeep said asset is something which helps develop the business. Fine, I understand that. Okay.
Sir, Uday.
Yes, Sandeep. Yeah, Uday, tell me.
Sir, asset is a resource which can help to increase our revenue for the business.
Good. You got time to Google out, correct? No, I'm just kidding.
No, sir, not Google.
No, I'm just kidding. I can come to know about it. Yes. Anybody else? Sandeep, yes, you were the... Yeah, tell me. What do you understand by an asset? There is a specific reason why I start my lectures or any seminar with this particular question. But there will be many like this coming up, which will enable you to cast yourself and evaluate as to where you stand. When you look in the mirror, you come to know who you are, how you look. So I'm making you how you are looking at. Yes, Sandeep. Come on, fast. We need to cover up a lot. I think it's frozen. Anybody else? Others? What do you understand by an asset?
Asset means some properties that's related to the, for example, if it takes a company, it's a company matters. If it takes a person matters. It's a properties or it's ownership owned by that person or company.
Okay, so if it is not owned, it's not an asset.
Sir?
If it is not owned, it is not an asset. Based on what you said, correct? I'm just, slicing it to make you fine. Good, appreciate. Surabhi.
Sir, asset is something that we own or plus we have control over it.
What do you mean by
That is our
control over
own.
it?
Means we can use it as we want it.
Okay, good enough. Fair enough. Anybody else who's left out? Yeah.
Yeah. I think asset is where company use its resources, use its funds which they have accumulated. So I think sources of funds is where you get the money, equity and capital and liability, and you use that money, use that to buy assets. So that is where companies using their funds to create assets and use it for business.
Okay. Like often, if you are employed as an employee, your employer refers to you or you are an asset to the company. And nobody would like to love to be called as liability, right? Understood? So when you say, when your employer says you are an asset, and it has often been in common parlance, like it's an everyday event that, you are an asset or he is an asset, he is dynamic, he is, value added or VFM, value for money. So when such notation comes around, I wonder, and it should make you ponder, that why not it being reflected into balance sheet? We work for employers, we add value to them, and that's how they earn, and we enhance their earnings. So why aren't we considered an asset? And if we are considered an asset, and as you say, we often call each other as an asset to the company, then why it is not reflected to the balance sheet? My question is very simple. Any idea, have you ever pondered or reflected on this particular notion? Is it not to be reflected onto the balance sheet? And if not, why is the reason?
Okay, I can, like what I feel that, when you are saying that a person as an asset, okay, that is, we can't present it in a financial statement because what we are saying, that is a kind of emotional attachment on it. But when it comes to monetary terms or financial statement, which is going to present the company revenues, losses and everything, probably employee itself, like we probably can say that how many members we have in our company, but that's a number of headcounts we probably presented, but not in a financial statement, because financial statement presents all monetary terms, not that, numbers probably.
I give you a number, sir. If you are an employee of mine and I see you $1 billion worth, so I give you a value. Now, I understood your crux to the point that you say, okay, but it's not been able to value. Like I am not able to give, I will give you value. I'm giving you value. So now what?
Are you talking about the goodwill particularly? Like you're giving a goodwill kind of a thing that what?
I said you, don't bring twin brothers. Stick to the gun is that I'm just talking about one particular aspect. An asset is something which helps develop the business. Okay. In technical terms, in financial terms, it helps enhance our earning capacity. Yes or no? Everything is earning, everything is cash flow. Technically, from the economic point of view. So now when often it is commensurated to us that, okay, we are considered an asset, my point is why it's been reflected on to the balance sheet. You mentioned about emotion, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's an aspect of humans. Our company earns out of our skill set. We contribute our skill set to the company, not our emotions. We are not going to in love with them. What I'm trying to bring on the point is like, you mentioned and given me to understand when I slice it up and understand the undercurrent of the point you would like to bring home is that, okay, there's no valuation. So that's why I'm unable to value. So I'm unable to put up. I say I give you a value. So now what?
No, sir. So in that case, if I say that if you are giving me value, what that means is you're giving me a salary, right? So the salary will definitely be presented.
The argument is, can't human, when as an employee, you are putting up your skill set and enhancing the growth of the business, or you are adding value in terms of earning capacity of the business, can't you be considered as an asset? You say, okay, your argument was, if I'm not wrong in my interpretation, is you cannot value. I give you a value. Yes, anybody else? Others?
Sir, for example, if suppose we have to consider as an employee, we cannot convert him to cash or any other things that may collapse in a world because of his skills.
We are not worried about conversion.
No, for example, because of that reason we may not consider.
Okay.
Suppose what we are saying is he's for example, $1 billion worth. Based upon his today's performance, tomorrow he's a human. There is some chances of errors or something.
Today also is human, by the way. Anyway.
Maybe because of that reasons.
Yeah, take it lightly. Okay. See, often we stick to knowledge. You get my point or not? But then we mostly don't strive or thrive to convert it into a skill set. You understand my point? And if you really want to be top of the game, you don't only need skill set. The skill set should be your toolkit. And this, if you want to survive in the industry for 30, 40 years, I'm giving you nooks. I'm been so fortunate because God had been so kind to me that I've worked in 4 countries, four different countries of the world, covering the eastern and western part of the world, including India. What I'm trying to bring home the point is like, you need to ponder on such questions so that it's not a matter of convincing or with conviction articulation. It is you understand the fundamentals. And once you understand the fundamentals, you have covered the undercurrents. And if you have covered the undercurrents happen to be only in depth. Only ocean has undercurrents. If you go to well and pond, they make more noise, they don't have undercurrents. And that's why ocean is quiet. Anybody else? Sandeep, what do you mean by an asset? I understand your perspective, Adarsh. I appreciate that. Sandeep or Keyur. I think you mentioned it, correct?
Yeah, set I have mentioned. I can say about employee. You're talking about why employee is not shown as asset in the balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I think the employee doesn't have a resale value.
Okay. Now, had you would have been given to understand the definition of IFRS, which says an asset is something which happens to be an offspring of your past event, and wherein you have the control to direct its use to reap and sustain the benefits of it, as Surbi said. Now, the only and only reason why humans cannot be considered an asset, although framed and noted or often spoken in that parlance or labeled that, oh, you are an asset, is because they cannot be controlled. That's it. Finished. So the aspect of control here is the fundamental towards understanding the depth part of it, which you not have reflected. It is not of lack of knowledge or information, it is lack of application. And that's why I say this is all about judgment. And I am going to pass on the technology to enable you to understand as to how you can interpret it and bring onto the judgment. Now an example. If you can control and direct, you say, okay, you can control. Correct? You can control humans. But you cannot control beyond a point. You can influence people. You cannot control people. If you try to sit over my head, I will say, okay, I resign. Where is the control part? When I said he cannot go away. Are you getting my point where I'm coming from? So this is the fundamental which casts a mirror on you as to how much you know. It is nothing to proclaim or like I know and I'm teaching what I know. Your unknown is my known. It's not like that. But thing is, I am trying to embed in you a sort of a technology wherein you need to question and try to understand the undercurrents so that you can study this particular subject in depth. There are many questions and many experiences of mine which I will be sharing with you and putting up. And one of the questions which I was very fortunate to work as a right hand to the CFO in a US based company, the second best company in the world. He called me and said, like, we have bought a 6 million ship for a particular project. And the name of the project I worked as a second accountant was Safania. This is my actual and factual case which I have experienced. And he was a project director. He comes from an engineering background. Our company used to lay cables and pipelines into the sea from where, oil and petroleum get transmitted from, say, Dubai, Doha, Qatar to Russia and Iran and all sort of things. So you can understand. He said, we have bought a 6 million worth of ship and the value of which will be around scrap after 1 year. And the lifeline of the project is 50 years. Now, my question as an accountant was whether can we depreciate it in 1 year of an asset which has a value of 40 years. I'm putting you the same question. Suppose if I'm a CFO and bring, what would be your answer? Common sense question. There is no IFRS technical depth knowledge required here. I'm asking. It's common sense. It's one of the conventions of accounting. And I will give you a clue. It's matching principle. Okay, if you understand what is matching principle. We often study complications, but we forget the basics. Yeah, tell me. I've given you a clue as well. Can I depreciate 6 million worth of ship which has a lifetime of 40 years? Can I depreciate 1 year? And why? it's very easy for people to answer, and they spontaneously come up with answer, but then they get hooked up when Jkjiwani asks why. I need to understand the reasoning behind it as to what is the notion of motion inside you. Yes, I had to write 85 pages of memorandum to seek a budgetary approval to depreciate that particular asset. That I'm sharing you personally, but this is a factual case which is experienced by me, and I'm sharing with an exposure to you so that you can get an idea as to if you are if you get collided with such a circumstances, what should be the wavelength of your thinking. Tell me, come on. I've given you a clue, matching principle. What else you want unless you understand the basics of this? All our MBAs here. Yes. Can you or can you not? Firstly, give me a notion as to whether you can depreciate 6 million worth of a ship which has a 40 years in 1 year. Yes or no? My dear friend, especially Upadhyaya, if you are in a strategic position like you are the one who advocate and recommend accounting treatment, this will be your, a skill set which you need to understand. What we'll be studying is bookish knowledge. Unless you apply and get an understanding of the exposure, you won't be able to develop that particular expertise. You understand my point? You should be an acumen. Acumen means result. Result means an expert.
Sir, no idea about it.
No, yes or no? You
Sir,
can
I
gamble.
think, I think
No.
yes, sir. I think no.
How many of you say no? And how many of you say yes? Let's forget about I will be asking
I
them.
do say yes because when it comes to asset and when it comes to showing in the financial statements, we probably every asset, probably each asset which like we would talk about non-living things and all, that will be depreciated. For example, furnitures, even the furnitures we are using it out for a long time or we are going to use it for a long time, that will depreciate it. So yeah, even for that chip also will get depreciated.
The point of my notion is I'm not disputing depreciation. I am asking you whether can we depreciate the entire asset in 1 year, the life of which is 40 years. Can you depreciate in 1 year?
No.
This is a natural phenomenon. Yes, Surabhi.
Sir, we can depreciate it, but it depends for how long the project goes on. Because at the end of the completion of the project, we do have to close the accounts. So it depends what life the project has, whether it is of 1 year, 2 year. Accordingly, we will depreciate the asset, life,
Say
the ship.
the life is 1 year. No.
Then we have to close the accounts and we have to close all the entries. So we have, and it can be closed only by depreciating it, whether the value is 6 million, 5 million or whatever.
Anybody else?
Matching, as per matching principle, as you given the hint, we should have the equivalent revenue if you want to book that type of expense. That is what
So
I
you
understand.
mean to say, okay, if this is an asset which is 6 million, I should generate 6 million?
No, I am saying that the depreciation you want to take on that asset should have that type of revenue, not equal, actually more than that, to show it as expense.
That's news to me.
Because if you want to,
Anybody who can add value or understand as to what he has to share. I appreciate your view. I mean, honestly, but that's not the correct footings. You get my point on that. See, the answer is Surbi is 100% correct, and I'm very happy that this badge at least has one reasonable intellectual who is able to put forth the correct answer. I've asked 6 batches. This is the first batch in which I received the correct answer. Now, on what basis are financial statements prepared? What is the underlying assumption of preparation of financial statement? Come on, this is very simple and it is one of the basic interview questions. I have a full course on IFRS interview question. You'll go mad. It's one of these. What you are seeing is the slice, a taster of that particular course. Yeah, tell me. What is the undercurrent? Like, I mean, on what assumption are financial statement prepared? One basic assumption. Come on.
Going concern. Essentially.
Excellent answer. Right answer. So, is the project going to be a going concern after 1 year? You won't be able to prepare it. You get my point. You have to close, as she correctly said. So, if you match that particular period, you need to close everything in that particular period. And as I categorically and explicitly mentioned that the project will complete in 1 year, so the asset will stand of no use. It is as good as scrap. When if you have to bring down that particular scrap, what happens? You have to minus the whole asset value. Simple. Whatever the period may be. If it is 2 years, then it will depreciate in 2 years. Equivalent. It is 1 year. If it is
But
5 months, 6 months happen. Yeah.
But sir, you said that that particular asset, has the life of 40 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So with the project to utilize that asset, we were under impression that with the project we are going to use it with that 40 years or something like that. So even in the going concern companies also, we do estimate or we do expect that business to run for at least till the life of the project, or we'll probably understand with that. So that made the answers like that.
It was very clear cut in the sense that, like, we are talking about a particular project. Your assumption into your mind is that you are thinking from the company's point of view. I was talking about project point of view. Every project is like a division. When you close, you have to close the account. That's it, finish. As simple as that. So you have not to assume extra. That's what I said. You have a tendency to bring twin brothers and then get confused. I mean, see, this is where you can reflect yourself and learn how to put. There's nothing to undermine, or please do not misunderstand. I keep hand on my heart, and I really wish students to come up with the quality of the proficiency they depict into their work. And I would like to share with you, based on my experience, that after 50% of the course is complete, you'll be altogether a very different person. What you speak demarks your value. You understand my point? Anyway, I've just shared a link onto your chat box. If you all can kindly download that particular book, let me explain as to what would be my approach. I'm sharing you an official textbook of IFRS applicable for any certification course from ACCA body, and I will be teaching you the entire book. As I said, you can find many notes or PPTs on your LMS, Henry Arvind, to which I have no ownership. But this is a book which I'm sharing because I'm going to teach the entire book, and that is one of the main reasons why most of the students, when they come to know Jkjiwani is back, they will be joining once again. Because I've taken a leave due to my father's demise. I'm back, and I'm happy that this is in a short span of time, this is my third batch. So if you can please download that book and be ready. I'll just I'll resume within a minute. In the meantime, when I come back, I want everybody to open the first chapter, and this will be the approach. Everybody will read. I will give you a chance to read, and I will interpret it, and I will explain you every para, every scenario. We'll be covering the entire textbook. Yes. Kuldeep, any question?
Yes, sir. Two questions. First, you can hear me, right? Okay. So two questions. First is that that I'm not able to download it for now because I'm using my company system, so I can't download it. Okay, I have to send it to my personal system or something like that, and probably that will help me to download it. First thing. Second thing, regarding this, it says regarding this book particularly, the book which you are referring, it's really good that we would probably study on that particular part. But when it comes to questions, preparation and all these things, apart from weekend classes, how we would go for it? Like we probably would not be able to link those things. Am I?
No, I didn't get your question. I'm sorry about
Okay.
it. Yeah. Can
So,
you-
okay, so the study material which you are sharing to us right now,
Hmm.
that study material would be able to link those questions which is provided by Henry Harvin in that study material itself? Like, because we would like to prepare those questions as well as soon as the chapter finishes. Right?
What questions? What questions are you referring
MCQs and
to?
all. MCQ X. Okay.
So you can, because even if you wish to undertake a revision or say examination, you are invariably going to read this. But let me tell you, I'm the only person in India to have clear
Principles given in the handbook of the International Code of Ethics for professional accountants. The application of ethical principles will be tested for up to 5 marks in question
things because I've attempted, I know. I've given many foreign examinations.
to help them make
Company, you will be like, in the first scenario, the former scenario, you lose legs and hands. In the latest,
promote and facilitate of proposed standards
put up a note which is known as the exposure draft. This is put up on their website for public comment. You and me can also comment. I have done that earlier. So, I mean, it is standard development of standards applicable to the universe. So where will their entity aspect comes? You mean to say every entity they will be developing different set of standards? Revenue, yes or no?
Yes.
KA,
That
for
was
somebody who is written. Oh, okay, we'll take a break in 5 minutes. But okay, Germany said, like, I'm not happy with the draft. It is and develop the expertise. Suppose I have taken this on lease. Should I to show this as an asset or not? In earlier standard, it was not shown at all. Okay, it was off balance sheet. Now consider this. Suppose this breaks, this asset breaks. Now every asset has an equivalent liability. Yes or no? When I have taken this, when I have taken as a loan from you, will I not have liability on the equivalent end? Yes or no? Suppose if liability is not depicted or reflected onto the balance sheet, what happens? Tomorrow, your company will be a no-going concern. I'll tell you something, my dear friend. You read a financial statement, correct? It is based on going concern. Suppose tomorrow, your company says कि भाई company उड़ गई, means company is no more. Funeral. Why? Because the liability itself destroyed the entire gamut of your assets. Can happen or not? Yes or no? If this is a substantial asset on which your company is earning or based in terms of your operation, if this fails, the liability get activated and you are gone, like bank guarantee activation. I'll tell you, I work for a company. I work for an Australian company abroad. We were to prepare the largest mall of that particular country. Okay, largest mall. And the contract was given from the sheikh of the country. Our company was engaged in construction. We were the 7th best in construction of skyscrapers. The largest mall. It got ready. It got ready. And when the contract comes to you, they obtain a bank guarantee that in case you fail, they can activate that much of level of money from your company. Yes or no? And that bank guarantee is like a mortgage loan sort of a thing, which is given based on the margin. Yes or no? Now the mall got prepared. Unfortunately, the mall was not approved for electricity and water. Some design difference. then it got revised and reconstructed and blah, 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 blah. But unfortunately, still it didn't happen to materialize, whereas, approvals of relevant authorities or government authorities concerned, they activated the bank guarantee. What happened? Funeral. The company was no more. We all lost our jobs in one day. Are you understanding my point? Then you will say, but there was a scam. Suppose you are CFO and the company gets paid, what happens? You will be jailed. All my superiors, except me, because I was a right hand, treasury head. I'm not bluffing, I'm not joking, this happened with me. All the apex members above my ranking, all were jailed. Because you have to see this coming here. You have to see this coming. You have to apprehend. You have to visualize. I hope you understand. So, reporting is not accounting. It is like maneuvering the accounting treatment which should be in line with proper judgment. The moment your judgment go haywire, you are out. Trust me, you are out. And at an apex position, if you spoil your name, you can hardly be carrying a reputation to be employed by somebody else. So the market comes to know. You get my point. Okay, for accountant, general entry, you can leave the company there. But if you are a CFO, you are known in the public arena. Anyways, so this was on this, and if you need a break, I usually give it at 11. I don't know if you are hungry, thirsty, just bear till 11 and then we'll take it. If you wish, you can have it now itself. Your call. Tell me.
We can take a break, sir.
Okay, good. We'll take a break, and when can we resume?
30 minutes?
I usually give 15-minute break only.
Fine.
But anyway, since the first I don't want to be merciless, and I don't want you to curse me, take a half-hour break. We'll meet at 11:15. Is that fine with you all? For me, it's too early because my supper would not have been ready by this time. But anyway, I will take a round and come. As it is, I've got backache. Okay, we'll see at 11:15.
Okay.
Thank you.